Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Southerners Northern Garden. So I want to take you to the south side of my house, which I haven't shown in a whole lot of YouTube videos because it's not my favorite side of the house, but we're experiencing a problem I have never seen elsewhere in my garden. So I'm going to take you over there and show you how I intend to address that issue this year. So this area is southeast facing, and so it gets a lot of the brutal sun during the day. So I have noticed most recently that the soil around here is really powdery. I noticed it a little bit in the fall when I was planting some sedums in this area. It's a great soil for sedums, fast draining, holds very little water. However, I do have some hydrangeas and other items on this side of the house that do not and have not thrived since I installed them. And so I think it comes from a couple things. One, when we moved in, or when we started tearing out this bed, what existed here when we moved in was 3 very large yews, like the biggest yews I have probably ever seen. They were probably 6 feet tall by 6 feet wide. And I don't have any pictures because I didn't really take any pictures of this side of the house because it was so terrible looking. And so I think those yews did a couple things. One, they absorbed a lot of the moisture in this area throughout the years, leaving the soil just devoid of nutrients. And 2, the owners, although they didn't mulch very well or very often, were not able to get mulch under the yews. And so what you were left with was basically kind of the topsoil that was brought in when these beds were originally created on the side of the house. And so I think 1, there's some lacking in nutrients, and 2, there was just no life in the soil after all those years. So I'm going to try to resolve that this year using 2 different methods. 1, I need to bring in some compost. I need to find a good local source of compost. It's been kind of difficult since COVID to find bulk compost, and so I might have to resort to bag compost. But even bag compost is really difficult to find in some locations. I may have to resort to getting it at a garden center, which can be a little more expensive. But our big box stores do not carry like good brands of compost for some reason. I don't know why. So if you're local to me and you have a good source for either bag compost or bulk compost, please drop it below so I can go find some of that. I don't need a ton. I'm probably going to focus most of my efforts around the hydrangeas and the back parts of the bed. This front part does have a lot of sedums, and I've got a butterfly bush right here that actually has just thrived in this condition. It needs to be trimmed, but I don't trim those till later because they don't wake up a little later. And then the second issue in this bed is the drip irrigation. So I've mentioned that we're going to resolve some of that this year. This bed, for the most part, is 1/4-inch drip, which is not like that anywhere else in my landscape. I think I may have run out of 1/2-inch tubing when I got over here, or I just wanted to experiment a few years ago when I got it started with drip. And that was a poor choice. So I'm not going to recommend you use 1/4-inch drip irrigation and create a spaghetti system anywhere in your landscape. One of the problems that I have now is I have not quite, but almost overtaxed my drip irrigation system in the front and sides of the house because it's all in one zone. And so I'm considering pulling out all of this 1/4-inch drip and using the same zone for this that is zoned for my vegetable garden, because I typically water them very similarly. And so that will give me more output and flow to the front flower beds if I cut this section of the house off, and also will allow me to potentially water this area of the yard more because it gets the worst sun and I can water it more with my vegetable garden as well. We also have our air conditioning units here, so it's really difficult to hide those, and they still need to be accessible for maintenance. And so it's just one of the reasons that I don't love this area so much, and I'll try and disguise that a little bit. I do have the nice arbor that we put on for the fence this fall, and I'm going to be planting some roses on that because I want this to be a beautiful space. But I'm also going to focus on adding some more drought-resistant perennials to this area. This spring, some coneflowers. I've already got some yarrow, things that will look good throughout the season that don't necessarily need a lot of water. And so that's also going to be a focus. And I really want this place to be decked out in color for the year. Even if it's an area I don't see often, I do walk around the house a lot through here to go through the arbor, and I just want it to be beautiful like the rest of the garden. The sedums that I planted last fall are coming up really well. It's called Back in Black. It's a new variety by Proven Winners that's coming out this year, I believe, in garden centers. I was able to get my hands on it last year. And so those sedums are just getting going, and they like the bad soil. They'll probably actually thrive in the bad soil over here and the heat, but I want to add some of that good compost for all of the other things that like a little more moisture and will do much better with some more nutrients in the ground. So I want to take you over here and show you something else right quick before we wrap up this video for today. So I showed, maybe in some garden tours last year, if you've been following along, you know this area of the bed is completely new from like right here back. And so in May, last May, early May, I ordered a Sweet Carolina red bud from a company called 𝗓𝗓𝗔𝗡𝗧𝗦 Nursery. It's an online plant place where you can buy shrubs, perennials, and trees and have them shipped to your house. And I have ordered something from them before, a blue chiffon Rose of Sharon on standard, and I had really good success with that blue chiffon Rose of Sharon. Well, this red bud came in last May, and when I took it out of the packaging, the soil all fell off of the root ball. And so that gave me two indications. One, this probably should not have been sold to me because it wasn't rooted into its container. It had hardly any roots, and so it was nowhere near rooted into its container and wasn't ready to be shipped to the customer. And two, it could have been field dug and stuck into a container and shipped to me, and should have spent a little longer in its container, and it wasn't indicated that it was field dug. Well, I reached out to 𝗓𝗓𝗃 Nursery because after I did my last video where I was walking around scratching my trees, I noticed that this one has no green under it, and it is very clearly dead and dried out. It struggled really bad because of its poor root system. Last summer, I had it on a water gator, I think is what they're called. You fill it up with water and it drips water slowly into the ground. It's similar to this over here on this tree. People are always asking me what those are. Those are called water gators. You fill them up with water, they hold water, and they slowly release it over a long period of time, several hours. And it's good because it really soaks the root ball and the ground around the plant to allow it to thrive and survive better. So I had a water gator on it all summer and filled that several times a week. And then when I finished creating this bed, it immediately got drip irrigation. Well, despite all of those things, because of its poor root system, it did not thrive. In fact, it lost almost all of its leaves. It may have lost every one of its leaves within a few months, and it started putting on new leaves. But it still was like it could not get enough water. And so it is clearly dead, and I reached out to the company a few days ago, and they had me go through this process of scratching it with a coin because I couldn't get my thumbnail to do it because the bark was so hard, and I sent them a video. Well, they've agreed to replace it, but their warranty isn't that great. And so that's another thing I wanted to talk about is careful where you purchase your plants and the plant warranty. So as a customer, I do not typically cash in on plant warranties. A lot of the issues surrounding plant death are the fault of the gardener. It's just how it is. And a lot of these garden centers charge much higher prices for their plants because they do have a plant warranty. I would personally rather get a cheaper plant and risk the plant dying because I did not care for it good enough. And so I was hopeful that, hey, I could explain all this to them and they would replace it. Well, their plant warranty is that they will replace it if you pay 50% of the purchase price and it's in stock. It's not in stock. They gave me an opportunity to get something different. But I also am afraid that if I got something else, I would have the same issue after this last experience. I don't know about you, but as a gardener, if I don't have a good experience with someone, especially an online retailer where I can't see what I'm getting, I have a really hard time going back to that retailer later and purchasing something else. So this is nothing against 𝗓𝗓𝗃 Nursery. If you've shopped with them before and had good experiences, great. But I don't think I'm going to cash in on that warranty. I think instead, I'm gonna spend the money that I would have had to pay to get this replaced and go to Grandma's Garden Center that I posted a video of. last weekend and buy a bigger tree to put here. And so I know what you're thinking, Matthew, you have that beautiful dogwood that you just picked up last week and have paid for and are waiting to get. Why don't you stick that there? Well, I want to keep that dogwood around the fountain. It's going to look really great around the fountain one day when it's with its arching branches. And here I want something that's going to provide more shade. I love shade gardens, and it's always the truth that you love what you can't have. And because I live in a fairly new subdivision, it's less than 20 years old, there's not a lot of trees planted in anyone's yards. And so that's one of the things I focused on when I moved in, was immediately get some trees in the yard. But it's going to take a long time for those trees to grow up. So while Grandma's Gardens is running their sale into the 20th, if I can go out there and pick out something that's a little bigger, spend a little more money, but use the money that I would have spent getting a tree the same size as this one, and then plus a little more, I will be much happier, I think. Now, you'll probably think, you know, a lot of these things that I planted around here are sun-loving plants, both shrubs and perennial. That is true, but because I don't have any shade yet, those things will eventually have to be transitioned to someone else's garden or moved around my garden as the garden develops. You know, you have to plan for what you have currently in your current circumstances when you're planting, and your garden will change and develop over time. And as that happens, you've got to replace plants, whether that's for death or they just, you know, outgrew their spot, or the circumstances around where they're planted changes, like shade. And so I'm going to go this weekend and pick out another tree at Grandma's Gardens over here, and hopefully they can help me find something really nice. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't really have a lot of ideas. I really love the thundercloud plum. They are a beautiful purple leafed tree that would also look really great back here with my color palette that I have going on. But I also think a really gorgeous blood-good Japanese maple or something else that would do okay in our environment here in Ohio. It will eventually get some protection from these evergreens and the blazing sun in the afternoon or the evening. So I'm going to take some pictures of the space around to Grandma's Gardens this weekend. I might take you along and take some more video while I'm there. I didn't go in while I was there the other day, and they have a really beautiful setup for the spring and Easter, so I may take some more clips while I'm there and show you that. I'm kind of excited that although I lost this plant, I was given the opportunity to find something bigger to replace it with that I will hopefully love just as much. If you shop at Nature Hills Nursery, by all means continue to shop there. This is not intended to be a bashing video for Nature Hills Nursery, but I always want to be open with you guys about my own experiences because if there's anything I love, it is a good review, and I seek out reviews on nearly everything I buy because I want the best. And so my experience may not reflect your experience, but this has been my experience, and I just wanted to make you aware of it. So thank you guys for joining me today, and remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care. Bye.